with the prayer by Commissioner Thomas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We just thank you for this time that we can come together and do our county's business. We just acknowledge that everything that we do should be done in your will, and we just ask you to just guide our hearts and our minds and just keep us receptive to that. Ask you to just bless every citizen that's here, every citizen that's watching at home. May we all be one cohesive unit, and may we just get along to the best of our ability and just know that everything we do is for the betterment of our community. In your holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any modifications to the agenda?
I would like to pull tab 10 off the consent for discussion.
All right, anybody else?
Yes, I'll be adding on an item under general business.
Okay, I got you in there.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Second the motion. A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next we have a presentation. Charlie, you want to have Mike and Joel come up here and I'll read this proclamation? This is a Wakulla County Hero Life-Saving Proclamation in honor of Lieutenant Mike Kemp and Joel Weir. They both say the same thing, so guys, I'm just going to consolidate them instead of reading them twice, if that's all right with y'all. Whereas Lieutenant Mike Kemp and Joel A. Weir took fast action and used creative thinking to prevent a Tallahassee father and his 2 children from drowning in the Ochlockonee River on July 5th, and whereas the brave actions taken by Lieutenant Mike Kemp and Mr. Weir of the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office were taken in severe weather conditions, and Lieutenant Mike Kemp used quick thinking and his friendship with Mr. Weir who allowed the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office to use his vessel with no expectations or compensation, and whereas the fast action may have saved the lives of a father, his 17-year-old son, and 14-year-old daughter, and whereas weather conditions were so severe at the time of the summer squall that Mr. Weir and Lieutenant Kemp were risking their own lives with heavy winds, rain, and frequent lightning strikes. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Wakulla County Commission expresses its deep appreciation for the fast action and bravery displayed by Lieutenant Mike Kemp and Joel Weir, and commends them on their great work in assisting Wakulla County Sheriff's Office and citizens visiting our community. Adopted August 19th, 2013. Charlie? Dennis Foggy of the Military Order of the Purple Heart would like to make a presentation and say a couple words.
I'm very thankful to be allowed to be here to make a couple presentations. We're representing the combat wounded veterans through our organization, Military Order of the Purple Heart. I have 2 presentations to make. The first one is to Mr. Weir. It is one of our certificates. It looks something like this. And it reads as follows. The Military Order of the Purple Heart Certificate of Recognition is presented to Joel Weir for conspicuous courage in participating in the life-saving rescue of several individuals who were in serious peril in the Ochlockonee, my Native American is very good. Ochlockonee River on July 5th, 2013. Without hesitation, despite the horrendous weather conditions, he immediately responded to the request from Lieutenant Kemp of the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office to maneuver his boat through treacherous waters to a position where the helpless individuals could be rescued. His selfless actions of bravery to save the lives of his fellow citizens under dangerous and stressful circumstances are a credit to him and his outstanding character. Given under my hand this 19th day of August, 2013, Mike Ford, Commander, Chapter 758, Tallahassee, Florida, Military Order of the Purple Heart. By way of explanation, the Military Order of the Purple Heart is a national organization. We have state chapters in every state, and we also have individual local chapters. And I'm here representing the combat wounded veterans of Chapter 758 of Tallahassee, Florida. The national organization has a program to honor first responders who are killed in the line of duty, and we have participated in that. However, our local organization decided we wanted to be a little more proactive in honoring those individuals who put their lives on the line every day for us. So we established some bylaws, and we selected 3 categories. One for First Responder of the Year, for those organizations that have a Deputy of the Year, Sheriff of the Year, Firefighter of the Year. We would like to participate in those organizations and those ceremonies. Secondly, we have a certificate and a medal for individuals who are seriously injured in the line of duty. And we have a Medal of Valor for people who are involved in heroism and valor itself. There is a chapter in the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah in chapter 6, that reads, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord asking, 'Who will I send for us? Who will go?' And I responded saying, 'Here I am, Lord, send me.'" Now, many special forces units in the military have picked that up as an unofficial Bible verse for their organizations. But certainly, by hearing those words, you know that also applies to all of our first responders. Okay? And on July 5th, you can almost imagine, Lieutenant Kemp sees these individuals in the water, certainly in peril of losing their lives and drowning. And you can almost hear the voice of the Lord saying, "Who's going to do something about this?" And Lieutenant Kemp, without hesitation, said, "Here I am. I'm going." Okay. Many people don't realize that 99% of the Medal of Honors that are awarded to our military service personnel aren't awarded for some grandiose mission or some cause. They're awarded because individuals are willing to go out and risk their lives for their buddies, for their friends. And what we find so extraordinary in Military of the Purple Heart chapters is that first responders do this for strangers, for people they've never met. And that makes it even more profound. So, with that in mind, I have an award to present to Lieutenant Kemp as a first responder. It is our Medal of Valor, and it looks something like this. And the citation reads, "Medal of Valor, Chapter 758 of the Military of the Purple Heart is honored to present the Medal of Valor to Lieutenant Mike Kemp. For conspicuous bravery on July 5th, 2013, on that date, Lieutenant Kemp observed several individuals in serious peril as they struggled against the violent waters of the Occoquan? Man, why couldn't it be the Cedar Rivers? Despite the horrendous weather conditions and with total disregard for his own personal safety, Lieutenant Kemp took immediate and decisive actions. He enlisted the aid of a nearby boater and then launched headlong into the raging river to reach the struggling individuals and pull them to safety. Lieutenant Kemp's life-saving actions in the face of significant danger is a credit to him, the Wakulla Sheriff's Department, and first responders everywhere. Given under my hand, August 19, 2013, Mike Ford, Commander, Chapter 758, Tallahassee, Florida, Military Order of the Purple Heart. That's the citation.
Good deal. Well, it's always good to have something nice every once in a while. Citizens be heard. I'm gonna let him get out of here.
We're gonna do citizens be heard first. Gonna do that first.
See if one of the citizens be heard right now. All right, we're gonna move on to the citizens to be heard. Bob, since you're right there, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
I will. I thank you for giving me a chance to speak at this time. There's going to be an agenda item coming up tonight, item number 13. And I realize, or in my opinion, this is political maneuvering. It's probably not how our system was designed to work. So I want to just encourage you to, if there's a motion made, not to second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Eugene Watkins?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Eugene Watkins from Crawfordville, Florida. My wife and I just visited the Keys last week, and I can tell you we were really saddened to see the green and brown water there, which used to be deep blue when we visited 30 years ago. The state has failed to protect the Keys, and I think they'll fail to protect our wetlands too. My wife and I, we do not wish to see our wetlands in Wakulla County changed like the Keys. I wish the board would let the citizens vote to save the Wakulla Wetlands Ordinance. I also wanted to let the board and public know that the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance, which was formed to allow people of this county the right to vote on the future of our wetlands, will start the petition drive next week. I wanted to let the citizens of the county know that they will be receiving a knock at their door, and a volunteer will be explaining to them why their property rights, property values, and the quality of the water will be impacted by 4 members of this board, County of Commissioners. We also want to explain how the state protections are not redundant, as you have been told by the Commission. For more information, if you'd like to donate to the Alliance, you can email Wakulla Wetlands Alliance at wakullawetlandsalliance@gmail.com, or for more information, go to Facebook, Save Our Wakulla Wetlands. Thank you.
Thank you. You, Taylor?
Thank you, Commissioners. Hugh Taylor, 1357 Dr. Martin Luther King Road. I'd like to talk about lies. Mark Twain said there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. If we were alive today, would he be saying lies, damn lies, and Jerry Moore? Last meeting, Commissioner Moore, you said there was a non-disclosure agreement on a wetland settlement with Dr. Kessler. There was no such agreement. I know because I asked. I got this. Please see attached. Also, Heather was unaware of any kind of non-disclosure agreement relating to this matter. That was the first time. That's fine. Impact fees. We told people that impact fees for Publix would be $4,000 a square foot. That, if not was a lie, was stretching the truth. Wrong again. You were wrong by a factor of 10. That's 1,000% on what you said impact fees would cost. But that Publix never came anyway, as did the jobs you promised. Then, you said you sent a letter to the sheriff about consolidating our emergency medical services and paid fire department, and I requested a copy of the letter from the administration. I got this. There's no county record of the information you have requested. Then this from the county. I received a call from Commissioner Moore stating no letter was sent by him to the sheriff's office regarding consolidation of sheriff's office and fire and EMS. Then, during this whole thing, I asked for a copy of the letter from the sheriff's department. Guess what? Got a letter. And what I'm thinking is someone with the previous sheriff's administration tried to provide you cover. We got caught in the lie, and you also put at risk whoever forged that document. Criminal? I don't know. But I will be asking for an investigation from the state attorney on this matter. Now, in business, when I have an argument or a landlord-tenant dispute, I let a judge decide. Some people have said they don't want you to run again. I suggest you do run. As a matter of fact, I challenge you to run and let the citizens be the judge. Your constant lying, talking opinion as fact, and misrepresenting things you do not agree with, or to curry favor with a select few, is not anything I would like in a commissioner. Your handlers can't hide you as they did in 2010, and I would hope people voting for any commissioner that would vote to not allow a referendum on the wetlands repeal would also vote no on the 1 cent sales tax coming up, and Commissioner Kessler's item on lowering the percentage required to get an item on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. John Trice? John, I've had a request. Please hold off on the cussing if you don't mind.
Do what?
Please don't cuss.
I ain't good, I just said, hey.
No, I mean the last meeting you did. That's all right. That's water on the bridge.
Anyway, still we need the wetland orders reinstated, and I got a thing here where everybody's always talking about they do the best from the county. This is, let's see, June the 14th, where one of our county commissioners is sitting up there talking about when he ran for county commissioner. I want to read this thing. It says, Thomas believes there is a disconnect between the government and its citizens, and said it's time for the local government to get more in step with local families. Times are difficult and many are struggling. He said the survivors, we have no choice but to tighten our belts, and he said at the same time the local government is asking more of the citizens. I don't think Commissioner Thomas is in touch with the citizens of this county anymore. He ran like he was going to be in touch with the citizens of this county, but is he sitting up there doing stuff like he's in touch with the citizens of this county? No, I don't think so, and I think the citizens of this county ought to look at Mr. Thomas and see if he's doing what he promised he was going to do. And I think we got 4 commissioners up there that's not doing what they all promised, which most commissioners never do what they promised. It's like all candidates. Y'all lie, lie, lie. And once you're elected, you get up there and do what you do please. So that's what I got to tell most of you. We got one up there that tries to help the county, and the rest of you is doing what you want to. You promised and promised and promised, and 2 of you have done what you promised you'd do. You've done away with the wetlands ordinance so you could get elected. That's all you've done. 2 of you promised people you'd do that, and that's what you've done to hurt the county. That ain't help the county, that's hurting the county. So thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, sir. Let's keep the love flowing here. Chuck?
Thank you, Commissioners. Sure, you missed me last meeting.
I still got my note right here. Don't forget about Chuck.
Okay. So, this is about the wetlands issue, but it's more peripheral to the wetlands issue. It seems to me that the model is broken, and you haven't recognized that. Right now, it seems your actions, your consistent actions, are to make development and construction easier. Well, this is a model for growth. With the price of gas to go to Tallahassee, where most of our jobs are located, that model is not going to work very well. We cannot, low-income housing, which is what's being built and sold, okay, cannot afford to go to Tallahassee to work. They need jobs in here in the county. You have an opportunity here to have jobs in the county. The most exciting thing for our county to come forward lately is the TCC Environmental Center. making sure that all your actions are designed to promote the coming of the TCC Environmental Center to Crawfordville will drastically change the model for the county. Then you can have growth, then you can have all the things you want as, establishing in the county without having to send all of our people to Tallahassee to work. Getting rid of the wetlands buffers, all that does is put money in developers' pockets. They get to make smaller parcels and, not protect our ecology and our environment like they should. Now, since we're trying to become a green county, and if we get the environmental center, we become really involved in a green county, we should be making all of our actions focused on that. That is the game changer to really move this county forward. And you need to be thinking about that, not thinking about the cheapest way to build a house in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Arts?
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm speaking about the community center, and Jim, would you come on up too, please? The two of us are disappointed that the YMCA will not be involved with our community center, and we hope that you and county staff will try to identify alternative ways to make citizens' dreams of a community center come true. One option that you're likely considering is to move the 21st Century Learning Center grant to the community center, which we fully support. But we hope for more. And we're concerned that while this planning is going on, that another year is likely to slip by while these alternatives are being considered and put into place. And we understand why that could happen. But citizens have been waiting a very long time for this community center to become a reality. So we would like to offer an proposal that will minimize that wait. And if you would hand these to the commissioners. Basically, while people are trying to figure out what to do with the community center over the long term, we are offering to try to get the community center up and running as quickly as possible using a team of experienced professionals serving in a volunteer capacity who will work with a broad range of community partners to offer a variety of free and low-cost programs and activities for people of all ages, particularly children and youth. We are offering to do this at no charge. This is 100% community service, and we are prepared to get to work immediately so that as soon as those buildings open up, that we will have daytime, evening, weekend programs provided for the citizens of this county. So I know this is a kind of unusual offer, but we hope you'll seriously consider it. We stand before you as people who are committed to the community center concept and its development. We have many years' experience developing and managing community-based programs. We understand what citizens' hopes and desires are and have a long-range vision for that. I commit to volunteer for up to a year and will put all my efforts and energy into making this a reality.
Jim, do you want to let Lynn keep talking, or do you want to? You can give her your time if you want to.
That's your line.
That's your
Okay. If you get things in place more quickly, we'll step back, but we can make that community center really hum with activity and serve citizens in this county while you all are trying to figure out where to go from here. And if you have questions about this proposal, our contact information is there, and we'd be happy to talk with you at your convenience. If you see value in this proposal, we encourage you to ask the county administrator to bring it back as an agenda item, even at your next meeting, with any legal agreements that might be required. As soon as you give us the nod, we will go to work as volunteers, 100% community service, with the goal of having as many programs and activities for all age groups ready to start as soon as individual buildings become available for use. So, thank you.
Now, my wife put this proposal together, but I'll say this in her defense. If you went out and you hired 2 people to do what she has volunteered us to do, free, it'd cost you $100,000 easy. Easy. If you look at my resume, if you found someone to do what I have experience, background, education, and capability of doing, I think you'd pay $100,000 for that individual. But I love this community. Since I first started this, whatever you want to call it, this trek to get a community center here, it's been my passion, and it will be that until we have the kind of community center that will do what this county needs. And I am willing to not sacrifice, but I am willing to put myself 100% in doing what I can to make that happen. But it's got to be with your stamp of approval, and it's got to be with your support. It can't be us out there fluctuating with the wind. So, consider it.
Jim, you don't mind, a little unusual, but Jerry wants to ask you a question.
Basically, what I'd like to do is to have you and Ms. Arts, I'd like to meet with you, and maybe we could I'd like to know more about what you can do, and then still what we can do, and what we can all do together.
So I'm at your disposal. You set the time and the place, and I'll be there.
Sir.
His phone number's in that proposal. We appreciate the offer, and we'll certainly take it into consideration. David Damon?
Okay, first off, that was an amazing offer. I mean, we ought to give them a round of applause for making that offer, and I'll use up a few of my seconds to do that. Wakulla County wetland ordinance is about to be thrown out by Commissioners Harden, Merritt, Moore, and Thomas, despite the majority of citizens speaking out opposing this plan. These 4 commissioners and others have done their best to convince the citizens that our wetland ordinance is redundant, or the same as the state regulations provide. The citizens have been misled. The first photo you see out there, let's take a look at the chart. Our current wetland ordinance has a buffer of 75 feet. The state regulations offer only a maximum 25-foot buffer. The state's 25-foot buffer can then easily be reduced to 0 buffer given a variance. One more thing, they are counting on an honor system because they are too understaffed to check up on this. Also, our same 75-foot buffer applies to isolated wetlands. Under state regulations, if an isolated wetland isn't of environmental significance, fill it. What about overplatted lots? In Wakulla County, there's the flexibility to grant a variance up to 35 feet from the wetland. These are the facts. No matter how many times they say it, our wetlands ordinance is not the same as the state regulations, and it is not redundant. Think for a minute. Do you really believe they'd be fighting so hard to kill it if they were the same? Next photo, please, Katie. A movement by the people to gain fair representation has begun. A group called Wakulla Wetlands Alliance has been formed. In the next 2 weeks, a petition drive will be started. With enough signatures, the people will be allowed to vote in November to bring back the wetlands ordinance that Commissioners Harden, Merritt, Moore, and Thomas are currently vaporizing any trace of from county regulations. This movement started small, but has quickly gained momentum. Our email list is already hundreds long, but many more volunteers of all kinds are needed. Be part of this movement to take back control of the wetlands protection. For more information, you can email Wakulla Wetlands with an S, Alliance, @gmail.com, or go to Facebook at Save Wakulla Wetlands to learn more. Save Wakulla Wetlands, the Facebook page, already has a reach of 4,927 posts, an increase of 41% from just last week. That gives you an idea of just how much interest is being taken in what you guys are trying to do here. This will be going viral in the next week or two. It's a shame we've come to this point. It's a shame that you four commissioners have brought our county and our quality of life to this point. We should be spending more time working on a community center, something for our kids, instead of tearing down their future the way you four are trying to do. Thank you.
Victor Lambu.
Well, thank you. I, Victor Lambu, are chairing the Wakulla Wetlands Alliance. We have formed this committee to save Wakulla's wetlands, which we believe are vital to our economy and well-being of our county. We will gather sufficient signatures to place on the ballot an item that adopts the wetland ordinance presently in place and adds language that it can only be modified or repealed by 1, a referendum of voters in the county, or by a unanimous vote of you 5 commissioners. Why are we doing this? Because you plan to eliminate our county's present wetlands ordinance and all mention of it in our comprehensive plan. At the last meeting, you refused to let our citizens decide if they wish to eliminate local control of our wetlands. I plead with you to reconsider and let our citizens make this decision. We trust them. Evidently you don't. We will be asking all of our citizens here to sign our petition to save our wetlands and local way of life, and I believe we will get sufficient signatures. Wetlands are Wakulla's golden goose. It is wetlands that produce the seafood that both sport and commercial fishermen harvest. It is wetlands that attract and feed the birds that tourists come to watch. It is wetlands that produce the plants and animals and landscapes that they come to watch. It is wetlands that make Wakulla what it is. Our citizens will not be fooled by misinformation, and it's already been covered. Our wetlands, the state's ordinance will not cover. The state has 1 employee dedicated to wetlands per 8 counties in the Northwest Water Management District. We have 1 employee for our wetlands in our whole 1 county. No matter how devoted or conscientious a state employee is, he cannot do the impossible. Most projects will not be reviewed, and they are on the time constraint. They have to give a decision. Gentlemen, please don't kill and pluck our golden goose. Please don't punch Mother Nature in the face. If we do, she is going to slap us back, and our way of life in this wonderful county will suffer intensely. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Charles Hickman?
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Charles Hickman, 528 Hicklywood Drive, Crawfordville, Florida. And to be quite honest with you, Mr. Taylor stole most of my thunder this evening. So, in fear of being a little bit redundant, I am going to make a couple comments. Since I just sat back there and I wrote up what I wanted to say after listening to some of this, Commissioners, you're a representative of the people. You represent the citizens of Wakulla County, and they rely on you for good information. To be quite honest with you, your credibility is suffering dramatically, and you've heard several people stand up here and give you reasons why.
Last meeting, one commissioner berated another commissioner, and spoke of a wetlands situation that cost $600,000. Now, Mr. Moore, I don't know if you had problems in school with math or not, but there's a big difference in $600,000 and the numbers I've been able to come up with. Also, whenever you quote $2.8 million to get a Publix to come in here, the only thing I can figure is you're just covering yourself because you promised jobs to this county. And because you couldn't get a Publix in here? Maybe it's still to be, I don't know. But regardless, 2.8 million is about 100 times off of what it should have been. And to quote Mr. Thomas, you said nobody stood up for the wetlands situation whenever they had a chance to. Well, I challenge each of you commissioners, you need to stand up when one of your commissioners is spewing misinformation. Now, what's happening is there is misinformation being quoted about an airport. Well, guess what? If you tried to get another airport, another location, it'd be under current regulations extremely, if not impossible, to get a new location for an airport. They're not issuing new permits because of new federal regulations. The county owns the wetland, owns the airport, and there's money sitting in Tallahassee to be used for that airport. All you gotta do is go get it, guys. And yet we are willing to turn our backs on it. Not us, you. So with that, I'm going to leave it, but I think you need to be placed on notice that most of you will be looked at very hardly at the next elections.
Thank you. All right, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Right.
Yeah, with 10 pulled. Yes.
I second it. Motion second, any discussion? All for the motion? Aye. Motion passes. Ralph, go ahead.
Yeah, just had a question, maybe just a little background, and maybe I see Mr. Ezron Daniels in the crowd. Our county won a CDBG grant for $750,000, which will do renovations and complete replacement of homes in some circumstances. So what we're being asked to tonight is not to approve specifics, but just to approve a list of the homes that have been vetted and ranked. And so I just had questions procedurally about some of that.
Sure.
And some for you and some for staff that I asked earlier today. The second one on your list has a property that was purchased in February of this year, and according to our property appraiser's data, says that there's no building on the parcel, with the exception of a 24 by 24 garage. And so,
Thanks, Commissioner Thomas. Good question. We did vet all of the houses, and according to the Community Development Block Grant Program, that is an allowable activity under that particular program. There is a provision in the county's Housing Assistance Plan that requires them to have lived in the property at least a year before applying. Didn't say that they had to have owned it at least a year before applying, and we did verify and receive a certification from Mr. Crosby that he did in fact live there. Now, as it relates to being a shed or so on and so forth, we ran all of the properties through the Planning and Zoning Department, and that was one that did come back as it relates to conforming. And so we did rely on the county's expertise as it relates to conforming properties to deem them eligible.
So they lived in the shed?
According to our construction guy, I wasn't classified as a shed. Jay Mosley, who's our construction expert, he's not here tonight, but he did confirm and did do a work right up on the property. And that's still allowable under the program. Typically, only with the home program, there's a one-for-one replacement, but that's not the same requirement under the CDBG program. And so the county, as it relates to the local housing assistance plan, that is allowable.
question about that item.
I had just a couple general questions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Or jump in, I got
All right, let me ask quick. This, also, only 14 people applied, or
23.
23, only 23 applied?
Only 23 applied.
If I take 14 people that got awarded the grant and divide $750,000 by that, that's $53,570 apiece. Is that what they're gonna get?
Not necessarily, it depends. According to your HAP, Housing Assistance Plan, it can range anywhere, with rehab is $65,000 up to. Now, you're not gonna have everybody that needs that. You may have some that need $20,000 or maybe $30,000, so we may be able to go a bit further. We only committed in the county's application to do 10 properties, and so we far exceeded that by going to do 14. There are a lot of these properties that are demo properties. There are a lot of mobile homes. We don't do work on mobile homes. We have to replace it with a single-family stick-built property, and that is in the county's housing assistance plan.
Wow. So, why didn't more people apply for this money?
I have the slightest idea. We have shipped dollars as well that we're using to leverage with these monies as well. So we put it out for about 3 weeks. It was noticed 3 weeks, and they had 3 weeks to apply. We had a very active application process where we brought folks here, as a matter of fact, to go quite extensively through the application process. I will tell you, this is a stringent program. Very stringent program, and the Bible of the program is the county's housing assistance plan that was approved a couple of years ago.
So they, just to sum it up, we've given away $750,000 of free money to low-income people in Wakulla County to either build a house or rebuild their house.
According to the Community Development Block Grant Program, it's a demolition or replacement. Now, new construction is not allowed under the Community Development Block Grant Program. So, yes, you are correct. We are, when you say given away, there is a 20-year affordability period on it.
I just wanted to throw that out there for the people that say that we don't do anything for the lower-income people of the county.
Well, and I just want to make sure that when we're tearing down a garage, or that is going to meet the requirements of the grant. That, you said new construction is not allowed, but demolition and renovation is.
Demolition replacement is allowed. Now, you can build back just a tad bit better. You know, it doesn't require you to do a one-for-one replacement. So that means if you tear down a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom, that doesn't mean you have to build back a one-bedroom or two-bedroom. You can actually, based on the household size, you can go to a three-bedroom. Now, the program does prohibit that the costs have to be reasonable and concurrent with the family size. And so there are some regulations, there's some federal statutes that do apply as well, and we've made sure that we've incorporated them into the evaluation structure here.
I have some.
Go ahead, Howard.
Yeah. So you said about 20 years. What was that about?
The 20-year affordability period. Anyone that gets a demo replacement property, there's a lien that goes on the property for 20 years. And each year it's forgiven over that 20-year period of time. So if they live in that property at the end of 20 years, the mortgage is satisfied. If they sell it within that 20-year period, depending on the year that they sell it in, that would be the balance that is due back to the county. And it will go back into the CDBG program for the purposes for which it was initially intended.
Okay, and then the first example, what are the dimensions of that building? What you having?
24 by 24.
So when you say we can increase it reasonably, what does reasonably mean with 24 by 24?
Commissioner Kessler, I will kick back to you on that. I'm not a construction guy. Our guru, I will touch base with Jay Mosley just to get his expertise on that and get something to you. But he did do preliminary write-ups on these properties. And ultimately, just so that you know what happens after this, there's a preliminary estimate that's done. Now, when the jobs are bid out to the contractors, all contractors bid on the same thing. They go through, they walk through each property to make sure that each contractor is bidding on the same thing. And the contractor has about 2 weeks in which to submit their bids. And according to the CDBG procurement regulations, it has to be the most responsible bidder, the lowest responsible bidder. That's typically who the bid goes to. So we do have some safeguards in place just to make sure that we're bidding on the same thing. But as to the dimensions of the property, I can get some information to you as
Yes,
it relates
what
to that.
Ralph's kind of alluding to, and my concern also is, this seems to be running right on the ragged edge of the definition, replacing what obviously is a garage with a free house. I don't want to get audited and come back and say, well, Wakulla County, you need to repay this $50,000 or $60,000 because you replaced a garage with a house. Has somebody visited the site, I guess? Does it have garage doors on it?
I haven't seen it.
I will tell you, we've been doing this for about 25 years and have done many, many programs, and it has never been an audit problem. As a matter of fact, our company has never had an audit finding as it relates to the implementation of one of the grants, so.
So, okay, so, is there...
When you, most of those, when you demo a house, we got like 20 here and 16 of them are demos. You're gonna tear down what they're living in and basically give them a new house.
And build a stick-built property, that is correct.
So they get a new free house.
Yes.
Okay, so they go down the road, that's $50,000 house or whatever. They go down the road, halfway through they sell the house. The balance of what's forgiven, what happens to the equity that's built up in the house? Who gets that?
Well, they are entitled to the equity if they own the property, but whatever's left on the mortgage, that is recorded with the clerk.
So we'll give them the cash above the...
Absolutely, and we'll retrieve the residual of the loan.
Is that a linear amortization of that loan, or is it like a bank amortization?
It's forgiven provided that's the same each year.
1/20 each year.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And what if there's an existing mortgage on the property?
If there's an existing mortgage, we require a written letter stating that it is okay to do the work on the property. And I would imagine we haven't, would imagine that they wouldn't have a problem with doing the necessary rehab because it increases in value.
Probably not.
That's
I'm amazed. Some people don't want to pave road either.
Wanted to ask a question. I was just wondering about your program, but there's a few citizens in our community, I won't name them, but there's a few citizens in our community, they own the property to live on free and clear, but they're living in campers and cars even though they're not supposed to, but it's the best that they're able to do. And does your program have anything to do to help those kind of situations? There's people who's living in campers and cars on property that they own, but they're living in campers and cars without any utilities because they can't provide adequate housing.
Just need to put a garage on it.
I see where you go. Typically, it's land and improvements. And what the county can consider, there are a couple of choices with the SHIP program. Now, the way that your plan is written, it does require land and home improvements on the property. And so we can certainly look into some other variations of how we can assist those type of citizens.
Another point to just make sure that we're going to be okay with the replacement. This garage is 576 square feet. It's beyond the minimum size, or less than the minimum size required to be a dwelling in our county. I just want to make 100% certain that this is going to be acceptable. We're not going to have to kick this money back.
I tell you what we will do. We will go back and take a look at that. Like I said, we relied on the planning and zoning. They did send us a list of the properties that were conforming and those that were not conforming. And so we wanted that information from the county for a couple of reasons: environmental concerns, as well as to make sure that we can pull a permit. The contractor can pull a permit on the property in which to do the work. And so we did get an okay on that, but we will take a second look at that, Commissioner.
Also, number 14 on your list, that home was built in 2006. It's only 7 years old. I know anything's possible, and I see that person that owns it now bought it in 2010 from a bank, so it was a foreclosure property.
Right.
But just want assurance that a 6-year-old property actually is going to...
Any property is eligible under the program as long as they qualify and as long as there are repairs that need to be done on the property.
If you take that property, evidently that property was possibly destroyed by the people who live there.
Right.
What guarantee do you have, what inspections do you have that will see that they don't destroy the one that we're going to give them?
Well, the requirement is once we fund the property, there is no CDBG requirement that we do consistent monitoring on the property. It is their property. They've purchased it from the bank. And so it is a free market transaction. And so our only requirement is that they reside in the property as their primary residence. They cannot rent it. They have to realize the full benefit, that low-income beneficiary. They have to live in that property as long as that lane is on the property. And that is the public benefit there. So to answer your question, what assurance do we have? We don't have any assurance because it is their property.
Is there a motion on this item?
I got a couple more. Sorry, I just want to make sure that we get through this. Number 12 on your list has 2 homes on the parcel. So 2-part, one for you and one for staff, to make sure that that's going to be consistent with the CDBG grant. And also, if that's a legal, allowable use of 2 homes on one property, if it's going to be in accordance with our family enclave, and make sure that that's, if it's not legal from that aspect, we wouldn't want to put taxpayers' dollars into replacing one of the units.
Absolutely. As I understand, we will only build on that particular, and it is legal. We do it in many other areas as it relates to that. We will build that property wherever that home stands. As long as it, and we receive clearance again from planning and zoning, we will only do what is legal.
And we're comfortable with that?
Yes, I do recall, we did coordinate this with Meridian, so we can re-look at any of these, but I would just caution against relying too much on the property appraiser's database, because a lot of times that information may not be completely accurate in regard to the number of units and the uses and things like that, but we did go and look at all these, and we'd be glad to re-look at any one of these specifically.
Okay, thank you. And then final, there's 2 properties, number 5 and number 10, that currently have judgments listed in public record, and they're related to court costs that have been imposed. It looks like that money is owed to the county, and I couldn't find satisfactions to those.
Gotcha. Well, it's not a requirement in your HAP. What we typically look at are liens against property, not necessarily judgments. And I do know one in particular. There's a payment plan in place. It's not required that you have paid off. As long as you're current on your payments, we consider that as satisfying the obligation. But typically, we're not looking at liens other than property liens.
So there's no requirement, or can we tighten that? It just seems if that money is owed to the citizens of this county, then we need to address that before we're building them a new house.
That can be taken care of in your local housing assistance plan. Now, this is the plan that was submitted with the application that was approved. Now, going forward, it's certainly something that you can revise in another application, but if we do it right now, it would be based on an unapproved application, an unapproved plan by the Department of Economic Opportunity.
Try to address that. I agree with Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
The problem I have with all of this, and I probably shouldn't go there, but anyway, you've got a family living next door who's worked hard all their life, and they're living on Social Security. They're barely getting by. Sometimes they got electricity, sometimes they don't. They got a family next door that's on assistance, and the family next door gets a new house free. And there's something wrong with that picture.
Commissioner, what we've tried to do, what the county has tried to do in their plan, there's a priority list. Now, we've prioritized the elderly and disabled. Those were first, period. Typically, they're on the fixed income, so they receive priority in the process. And if you look down your ranking list here, you will see that there are several that either they are both elderly and disabled, or elderly or disabled. And so they receive priority. And so we wanted to make sure that we did take that into account before we considered any other applicants.
What is this received SHIP question mark? Is either a score of 10 or a score of 0?
Yes.
It means they have received SHIP in the past?
That is they have not. If you have not received SHIP, the goal is if you've received some level of assistance in the past, you receive less points, allow someone else to receive assistance.
We'll make sure they didn't get more points.
Absolutely.
Now, is there a time frame for that?
A time frame for
SHIP? I mean, with 5 years, 10 years?
I believe it's 10 years. believe it's 10 years. And also in your SHIP plan, there's a 10-year timeout. If you receive SHIP assistance within 10 years, you're prohibited from applying for additional assistance. The reason why we did this in the CDBG program, because we did want to allow some other folks to receive some level of assistance. And so what happened is, if you received assistance in the past, we gave you less points or no points. If you had not received assistance, that's where the 10 points came from. And the way that we found that out is we basically look at the public records, and if there's a mortgage recorded or has been satisfied, it's easily noticed. We also did an O&E on each one of the properties. We contracted with a title company, and so we received that ownership and encumbrances report.
I wonder why looks like 90% of the applicants were in Crawfordville. The other two were in Sop Choppy. I know the legal requirements are met, but there's nobody there from Panacea, for example, and...
Well, they have to be an unincorporated.
Panacea's not incorporated.
Yeah.
Well...
And it could be because...
We need to try to help get the word out a little better, that only 14 people, everybody that applied that was qualified got the grant, basically, right? Nobody got turned away.
No, the bottom of that list, there's some folks that were in the flood zone.
Yeah. They qualified, they couldn't have got it anyway.
Right.
I'm saying everybody that was eligible to get the funding got the funding.
This is only a ranking. It's still yet to be determined who actually receives it.
Absolutely. We're still qualifying. We're still qualifying because we're still collecting income documentation. What we're asking the board to do is, based on the structure that you put in your plan, which is what we're applying here, what you see here, based on what we have already, this would be the ranking.
I guess my point is, I'd rather see more people get a little bit than a few people get a lot.
Gotcha. And that's something you can change in your plan.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ezra, but the way I understand it, like the top one on the list has 5 people in their household.
That is correct.
He may, I don't know how this is determined, but he may determine that they need a $150,000 house, where the next one on the list is only 1, so they may only get a $50,000 house. So, this is just a ranking system, and you're gonna chew through that money based on that system and based on their need.
Absolutely. If you look, and I'll just go over this one, if you look at the first one there, you see that Mr. Godbolt is both elderly and disabled. So that's a priority. Okay, so
5 people in his household.
And with 5 people in the household. That was a later consideration. The first consideration is you received a certain amount of points. If you were elderly and disabled, then it goes down from there.
Gotcha.
Who sets the rules on the return of the equity? That keeps bothering me. I'm giving somebody something free, or whatever, some government program giving somebody free, and it's money that we paid in taxes. Who determined that they get the equity back when they sell the property? Let's say the person lives there, he sells the property, he keeps the equity above what he owes, and he gives it to his kids. But the community and the citizens paid for that house, and he never put a dime in it other than living there.
Commissioner,
Who sets those rules?
Board.
This board?
Can.
Wonderful, wonderful. We'll reset them the next time we come around.
Gotcha.
I'm not going to give the citizens money. I don't mind helping elderly and handicapped and those people who can't care for themselves, but that's just about as far as it goes. So great, that's good to know.
The LHAP we'll redo the LHAP the next cycle that comes around, if we choose to use CDBG for housing.
Right.
We got other couple things we may want to use our CDBG for.
Sewer. All right,
Sewer
motion.
Economic development. Well, if I can make just one more comment, from what I understand, if this goes forward, we're approving the ranking. So each and every one of these are going to come back to us for approval. Is that correct? Or
They come back for approval of the contractor to actually commence work on the property.
at that point, we'll know how much it's going to cost, how much of the funds, and
How much the bids came in, absolutely.
or if there's a problem that we've brought up here that we can't get past, then you're either not going to bring it back to us, or we'll have to
We
kill it.
will let you know there is an issue.
Very good. I make a motion to approve.
There's a second?
I second the motion.
Brenda Lovett?
I'm Brenda Lovett, 11 Excalibur Drive. I work with DEO in the Community Development Block Grant System. And on the shed, if that is not currently permitted as a residence, that is not an eligible activity. So you want to look into that on all of these. It's not worked with Ezron, but I've heard his name a lot around the office. Great guy. There's a lot of money going to administration for this project. Of the $750,000, not all of that is going to single-family rehab. Over $112,000 is going to the administration of this, so you should have plenty of money available to do the analysis that you need to do on these properties and get with whomever to make sure that you're making an educated decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. All right, David?
All right, hold on just one second. I got, had a malfunction here.
I said Brian, but I assume you don't want Brian to present.
Brian, he may get up here, but, he is wearing pants tonight, so I shouldn't make him get up, because he normally wears shorts.
You got his long shorts on?
That's right. This agenda item requests board approval of recreation equipment purchase for the Wakulla County Community Center Gymnasium. That's our multi-purpose facility. This is all within the budgets that we have asked for. What this is, staff is requesting approval to purchase 2 basketball goals, set of volleyball standards, wall safety padding, and flooring for the multi-purpose gym. We've researched and located the needed equipment infrastructure in order to create a operational recreational gymnasium.
Heather, do you have a suggested motion on this item?
I just have one change to the suggested motion that's in there, and that is for the flooring. You are not actually going to be piggybacking the Daytona Beach contract. Instead, you're going to be using it's a cooperative bid, much like state contract, but it's from the National Joint Powers Alliance, which you're a member of. It's more of a national bidding. And because we have not yet been able to one-to-one verify the unit prices that are included in the Shaw proposal with that NJPA bid, what I would recommend is that you move to approve the purchasing of the recreation equipment pursuant to the bid referenced in the document, and then the gym flooring pursuant to the National Joint Powers Alliance bid for flooring with Shaw pursuant to the terms and the pricing outlined in the NJPA bid, which is, we did verify it's good through 2016.
Anybody that will go along with Heather's recommendation?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
All right. Larry Roberts?
He's asleep.
Doing our job and Larry's asleep. I
suppose we're on item 11.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Larry Roberts, Hot Choppy. I have a lot of friends in this room that I respect, but unfortunately, in the case of the community center, I disagree with them. Mr. Harden spoke last meeting about when it was proposed that the public service tax be reduced, well, where will we get the money to replace it? Well, we don't need to replace it. What we need to do is cut back on some of our expenses. That includes the community center. One, it's unnecessary. We get along fine without it. We have, and we will continue to get along fine without it. And perhaps more importantly, the second is it would be in competition with private industry, private enterprise, and which you've got no business being involved in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim?
Well, excuse me. Thank you. Thank you very much for letting me speak again. I was going to pass because I'm all in favor of what you're going to purchase. But then this gentleman comes up and says that we shouldn't do this. And I would ask this gentleman to consider that you didn't have a library here for a long time, but now you have a library, and it's one of the most valued buildings in this county. There are more people that use that library than any other one facility I know of. And now he wants to cut and not have a community center. Well, someday you're going to look at that community center and say that's a very valuable building for this county. So I would consider all you naysayers about the community center to consider that you may not have had a community center when you were a kid, but times have changed. And the kids in this county
need this more than anything you can ever imagine. Thank you, sir.
All right. Ralph, Jerry?
Is this on file? We're not there, I don't.
Well, we're fixing to vote on this. This is 1 cent sales tax money, right, David?
Correct.
It's allocated for Parks and Recs. We can't use it to pave a road or, right? Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Not road paving dollars. It's dedicated public facilities.
Public facility.
Right.
So there are other things it could be used for, but I'm going to go along with it. Is there any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 5-0.
Very good, thank you.
Wow.
The next agenda item, request, is agenda item tab number 12. This agenda item request board approval to purchase a new vehicle for the building department.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next item?
Next agenda item is tab number 14. This agenda item requests board approval to purchase personal protection equipment for fire and rescue.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
I'm about to see somebody vote against this. All for the motion?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. All right, Howard, you're up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. You had an add-on item, didn't you?
We had an add-on item, thank you.
My bad. Sorry,
Thank you,
Howard.
Heather.
It's okay.
This agenda item requests board approval of change order to Sperry contract for renovations on the community center. When we previously had requested, we'd given the chairman authority to sign up to a certain amount. This is actually a change order to the contract for the community center to add in the existing firewall, additional work to the existing firewall, emergency exit doors, HVAC system in the facility, including the electrical, and upgrade the insulation and additional of the door. And what this would do is just requesting to allow the chairman to sign the change order.
This is grant money?
This portion of it is grant money. The other portion that'll be left out, $72,000, will be a 1 cent sales tax, and it's within what we had projected to do to start out with.
Okay. The motion on this item?
I make a motion that we approve the Sperry change order in the amount of $96,857 and for the chairman to sign.
For a second?
Would you roll that again, the item?
Okay, during the process of completing the project, what do you want specifics on, what the work was?
Why this is necessary.
Okay. What this does is this is additional work to complete the existing firewall on the north side of the existing building, including additional fire dampers in the ductwork. It also adds an existing emergency exit door.
Required per code,
Yes, required per code. In the new building, $3,180. Additional addition of the HVAC system in the new building, including the electrical work, upgrade of insulation in the facility to handle the HVAC system, and add a door, number 116A. That was to go into the back side, so it allowed access from the back side of the building.
This is taking the shell, the metal building shell we're having now.
That's right.
And air conditioning.
And making it a conditioned space, that's exactly right.
We can use in the summertime.
So that you can utilize the building. If you don't do this, we can't use the building.
Okay, is there a second? Is there any more discussion? All for the motion? Aye. All opposed? That's 5-0. All right, Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, my item is asking the board approval to reduce the county charter threshold for citizens that come forward with ballot referendum petition initiatives. I heard one citizen speak on this earlier, said this is not the way government is supposed to run.
This is exactly the way government is supposed to run. 75%, more than 75% of the state of Florida lives under charter. Population of the state of Florida lives under charter government. Okay? They think it's the way government should run. Overwhelming majority. But why do they think? Let's stop for a minute. The voters of Wakulla County voted to have a charter. They voted that they wanted to be under charter government. Why? Because it brings government and the governance closer to the people. So when your elected officials don't do what the citizens expect them to do, you have several choices. Under a non-charter government, the citizens wait 4 years and they can vote out their elected officials and wait another 4 years. Or they can petition the board to put on the ballot during a general election an item that they want on there. And this still can be done. This board can choose to put this on the ballot for 2014, this item. The board can choose to change its mind, one of the prevailing persons, and put the wetlands referendum on the ballot for 2014. But over 75% of the people in the state of Florida live under charter government because it brings more home rule to the people. There are 20 chartered counties in Florida containing that over 75% of the population. The citizens have a stronger voice. But when our charter government was passed, the threshold to gather petitions, and this has nothing to do with the wetlands ordinance because it will not affect the 30% of the petitions that group needs to obtain to put their referendum on the ballot. It has to do with the future. So of those 20 chartered counties with over 75% of the population, we have a threshold of 30%. The next lowest one is 10%. We're 3 times higher than the next county. What that does is it puts a burden on the people. Instead of going out and collecting 10%, by the way, there are counties that have much lower than 10% as their threshold. But when you set a threshold of 30%, you, in a sense, are throttling back on the citizen's voice. And so what this is asking the commission to do is to put an item on the ballot that would allow the citizens to vote. In charter government, on things like this, the citizens have their voice. If they don't want to reduce it from 30% to 10%, they'll tell you. If they don't want to put the wetlands protections in our county, they'll tell you. But the citizens have the right, under a charter government, to make the petition and to vote as they see fit.
Is that a motion, Howard?
That is my motion, to have the board approve to reduce the county charter threshold for citizen ballot referendum petitions and to put it on the ballot for 2014.
What's the vote on this, Heather? It has to be a 4-1 to get on the referendum? Okay. There's a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
All right, let's let the citizens talk. Sandy Tedder.
I'm Sandy Tedder, Salt Choppy, Florida, and I had hoped in the past, you've heard me, that the citizens would be given the option to vote on the wetlands ordinance, and that was thrown out by our 4 commissioners. I see why a referendum is needed sometime. You know, I didn't fully understand until this issue came up that sometimes the citizens really do need to get involved and try to force the issue. And so I would hope that you would reduce the threshold down to 10%, like a lot of other counties that do allow referendums. I would ask that you vote for Dr. Kessler's option number 1 and at least give the citizens the chance to vote on if they want to reduce that. Thanks.
Thank you. Chuck?
Chuck Hess speaking for CCAL. CCAL was a very active supporter of having a charter county, and one of the things that, you know, when we were having that discussion about the charter was that this 30% threshold was much too high. It makes it very, very difficult for the community to get involved, and for whatever they want to get involved for. All you're doing is giving them the right to make the decision of whether they would like to have a lower threshold, and then you'll still have a 10%. They'd have to get petitions and everything else, but it gives them, you know, if they don't want that lower threshold, that's fine, but give them the right to make that choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Eugene Watkins?
Eugene Watkins, Crawfordville. I support Howard's reducing the threshold. You guys have talked about American freedom and rights, and one of the basic rights we have is the right to vote. And that right sometimes gives the people a chance to make sure that if there's a mistake being made by you 4 or not representing the people, the vote gives us a chance to make sure we are getting the majority's say correctly. So I hope you'll support this, Mr. Kessler.
John? Me and John's on a first name basis.
We all knew, and you did too, when this threshold was set, it was too high. But there was a certain person that lived up on Spring Creek Highway, it wouldn't vote for it unless it was done the way he wanted it. Their families run the county for years. So I hope you support Dr. Kessler's thing on this thing, just get it set lower, so the people in the county has a decent right to vote the way they want to, and get it set down lower so we can vote on it and do things in the county that's right. We sure would appreciate it in the county if y'all took hold and did something for a change that's right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Larry Roberts?
That's Smith Creek Highway, I'm sorry, not Spring.
I was trying to figure out who you're talking about. I got you now.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, there, Robert Sop Choppy. Somebody warn me if my friends in the back corner starts throwing chairs at me or something. On this particular issue, I think Dr. Kessler expressed that much better than I can, so I won't try to repeat what he has said. I do think that if you vote no on this, it's a slap in the face to the citizenry, and I hope the people out there in TV land are paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you. This one doesn't have a name on it. They live at 272 Pine Lane. Any takers? Mr. Lamboot, as many cars you figured out? You put your name on it?
My name off, huh?
Yeah.
Man, I thought you'd know me.
You put citizens something threshold under the name. That's all right. We'll let it slide.
Okay, you let me go, huh? Gentlemen, in the wetlands ordinance, obviously, it takes 30% in each voting district. That is a tremendous burden on the citizen for most things. I'm sure we will get it for the wetlands ordinance, but there's so many things that's important to the community that won't get as much attention as a wetlands ordinance. That wetlands ordinance is something that almost every citizen in this county has an opinion on. But why not put it lower? Why not let public participation? I think part of our heritage here is that the right for citizens to petition our government. And by putting that so high, you are making it very hard for citizens to petition our government here locally. And I urge you to lower it. You shouldn't be scared of what the citizens are going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Hugh Taylor? And Bob, you're next.
I think referenda are the American way. Egregious instances. Can I say who the 30% guy was? I'm just kidding. Let me tell you how this thing might go, gentlemen. If you spurn this thing like you did with the wetlands, just suppose it. And the wetlands is the only time there's ever been a discussion about a referendum in this county, if you'll recall, for those who are commissioners who haven't been at meetings, but that's the truth. The Citizens Wetlands Committee makes the 30 to get on the ballot, wins the referendum, votes against whoever made it so tough for the referendum to work, votes against the 1 cent sales tax because of other taxing issues. Believe me, they'll be back for the 10%, but with a new commission. That's what I'm seeing, and that's what I'm hoping for. Because petitioning your government is the American way. And like Dr. King said, the arc of history tends towards justice. And justice is citizens having a voice. And citizens have not abused the privilege of either referendum or recall, except in egregious circumstances, which the repeal of the wetlands is, and really a 30% threshold is. So think future. And that includes this upcoming election, and if it works, and I'm not on the Wetlands Committee, or the Wetlands Alliance, I was on the Wetlands Committee, but if it works, and you guys fail to do this, you got people saying, we have some power, these guys didn't help us. So, then, yeah, there will be a new commission that will put it on 4-1 or 5-0 if you guys don't. I guarantee you, Dr. Kessler's 10%. Because you have made it, it's like Dr. King, I don't know if you've read any of his letter from the Birmingham jail, but he said, look, we gave you a chance, we gave you a chance, we gave you a chance, we gave you a chance. Too bad. That stops right here. And I think that's what you've done with the citizenry on the repeal and on this 30%. And it's very, Dr. Kessler said, it's very easy for the one person on the prevailing side to come and change their mind. Second for discussion, once again, shoot the shot. I hope you do it, but I know what's going to happen if we don't. You know, when they brought the dogs and the fire hoses to the Edmund Pettis Bridge, blowing up, that was the beginning of the end for that system and those people, and voting rights, and the beginning of the beginning for voting rights in Alabama, and all over the South. I just think it's a good corollary. They vote up, look what happened. You guys blow up, that's what's going to happen. So you can come and sit with us here in the gallery, because there'll be a new commission up there. I'm telling you.
Thank you. All right, Bob, you get the last word on this one.
Well, I appreciate it, and my name is Bob Danzy. I need about 10 minutes after all that, but I guess I get 3. Now, I'm not opposed to the people having the right to vote, but the way I see it is they've already voted, they've already elected you. Now, a certain group of people don't like what you're doing, so then let's go do it a different way. Because the people elected you because, the last 2 of you, because they didn't like how the commission was going before. So they said, we have to change our ways. So they gave us what this group of people are calling a 4-to-1, because I think that's what the county really thinks. Commissioner Ketcher, you championed the charter when it came in. You championed it, and was fine with it apparently then. Now I hear there's a little blowback. Well, we really didn't like that 30% there, but we couldn't really get it changed, so we had to take what we could get. Well, fair enough. But you still took it. You didn't fight for it like you're fighting now. There's a high standard set, and it's for a reason. It's because the citizens should get to vote, and they should get, if there's something egregious wrong in the county, there should be people standing in line to give 30% of their signatures from each district. That shouldn't be a problem. If one of you commissioners does something just completely egregious, and we need to deal with you or another elected official, I promise the signatures will be there. But to take it to 10%, well, hold on. I'll get to that in a minute. That's fair enough. To take it to the 10%. What I hear all the time is we want our county to be so much better and so different and so much ahead of other counties. So we have a 75-foot setback on our wetlands ordinance because we're better than other people and our stuff is more special. Well, I agree with all that. Don't get me wrong, but my point is we're going to be so much better about that. But when it comes to, well, we might need to change some things if we don't like the way other commissioners vote, we might need to be like everybody else and have just 10% like the rest of the state. So my point is, it's a little bit of hypocrite. It's a little bit of a hypocrite in that. I want to be different. We want to be the best, but the part we need, well, we kind of want to be like the 75% of the people in 20 counties. And what that tells me right there is, I haven't done the math, but it tells me that the rural counties don't have charters. It's the very populated counties that do have charters. I'm not sure we want to be like the very populated counties, because that seems to be like what we're trying to get away from. But yet and still, we're pushed in there when it's a charter. So, in ending, I will say, I would advise you to take your second bite. It's up to you if you vote, but I would advise you to. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
I'd like to say your second remaining. You want to talk about it?
I need to talk about it.
Let me go ahead and say as well. Let me go ahead and say a couple of things. I'll let y'all have at it. I took Howard's list he gave here of these different counties, and I figured out the actual number of signatures needed to get an item on a petition. Under Howard's proposal, it'd take 1,800 signatures in Wakulla County to get an item on a referendum. In Alachua County, at 7%, it takes 11,743 signatures. Brevard County, 18,360. Charlotte, 11,838. Yes, the percentage is higher, but the number of voters down there is much higher. And so I don't think it's a real apple-to-apple comparison. I think the bar was set high for good reasons, and I'm going to read out of the Constitution here that I'll let y'all talk about. This is the Constitution of the State of Florida, Article 10, Section 21, subsection A, and it reads, It shall be unlawful for any person to confine a pig during pregnancy in an enclosure or to tether a pig during pregnancy on a farm in such a way that she is prevented from turning around freely. That is why the bar is set high. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Can you go ahead and talk?
Go ahead, y'all.
All right.
Whoever's going to go first. Richard, go ahead.
I'm going to go first. Well, I wanted to learn how the 30% got in there, and I wanted to learn who was it responsible for the 30% being that's going to be brought up. You're absolutely right, Marshall Lawhorn did make the motion, and I went back and I pulled the minutes from the regular board meetings from Monday, July 21st, 2008, and I'm going to also read it word for word right out of the minutes, and this is public record, okay? It says that request adoption of the home rule charter ordinance first of two required public hearings. Just like Mr. Trice said, Commissioner Lawhorn made a motion to approve the first public hearing and make a change at 7.3.2 amendment by petition from 15% to 30%. So initially, it started out at 15%, but Commissioner Lawhorn made the motion to raise it from 15% to 30% requirement. Then it says seconded by Commissioner Kessler. Okay, so Commissioner Kessler seconded the motion. It began at 15%. Commissioner Kessler seconded for it to be raised to 30%. Then it ends, it says the motion carried unanimously 5-0. So there's the person that made the motion, and there's the person that Commissioner Kessler that seconded the motion for the 30%. So and it passed unanimously. So Commissioner Kessler is the only commissioner on this present commission that was there at the time, and it's effectively the 30% rule is Commissioner Kessler's rule. Now, this was presented in the county charter that the entire county voted on. The county voted to adopt the charter with 55% of vote with the 30% in it. So the county themselves have already voted on the 30%. Now, I also want to fast forward to 2010. In 2010, there was a constitutional amendment that was sent around statewide called Amendment 4. It was also called Hometown Democracy. Now, what that constitutional amendment was, it was exactly the same concept that's being presented here tonight. If that amendment had passed, it would have meant that every comprehensive land use change would have been voted on by the people and not the representative government. Okay, now that would have bogged our government down at the time, and the people knew that, and that Amendment 4 failed throughout the statewide. But I wanted to also go and look and see how did Amendment 4 fare in Wakulla County? How did that concept fare in our county of citizens voting on comprehensive land use changes or anything versus the elected officials that voted to represent them? When I went and looked at it, I seen that 67% of Wakulla County voted against Amendment 4. Only 33% voted for it. And whenever I ran on my election, Mr. John Trice is also right, but I made it clear where I stood on the wetlands. I made it clear where I stood on many issues, and the citizens knowing that still by a good margin allowed me to sit here today. So I believe that everything that we've talked about, the citizens that have already voted on and already spoken, I just wanted to make it known that the 30% is Commissioner Kessler's rule. I'm going to be voting in order to keep it at the 30% level. I believe in representative government. I believe that the citizens represented us to make the decisions. There's going to always be tough decisions. There's going to always be controversial decisions. There's going to always be unpopular decisions. But the 5 of us were elected by the citizens to make those controversial, unpopular decisions. And then every time an election comes around, the citizen has the right that if they feel that I didn't serve them the way they wanted, they have every right to vote for someone different. But in the process that I'm here, I'm going to keep that to where we are the ones who are doing the voting. And I believe the citizens, through a history of voting, the citizens have already made it clear what their vote would be.
Well, go ahead.
Yes, I guess I'd like to just start out by saying, kind of reiterate that the citizens did approve this, and this was a long, lengthy process that got to the point to forming our charter as it stands today. So the citizens have clearly spoken, and since that point in 2008, the petition method has never been tested, never failed, never prevailed. It's just never been tested. The charter as it stands now has never been questioned, or revised, and so I keep seeing this division that's coming in, but our citizens approve this. maybe had Commissioner Lawhorn not put the 30% in there, maybe if he'd put it at 15 or 10, who knows? Maybe the citizens wouldn't have approved it. I don't know. None of us can know that, but we do know that they approved the 30% as it stands now. Commissioner Kessler, you had some figures, and I have a little different figures. Not that I'm doubting what you said. I think that's absolutely true, but just another way of looking at it. 70% of the counties in Florida have no charter whatsoever. There's 20 counties that have a charter. There's 47 that do not. You quoted 75% population base, and that's very true based on overall population. I'm not disputing that. But if we look at the counties and each government going through as a body and presenting it to their citizens, 70% have decided that they do not have a charter or do not need a charter, have not approved a charter. I see you shaking your head, but I verified that information.
Well, I mean, I think you're misleading.
I'm not misleading at all. 20, let's do the math quickly. 20% have a charter, or I'm sorry, 20 counties have a charter, 47 do not. And so 70% of the counties.
Well, I'll discuss.
Okay, very good. Also, our charter was adopted in 2008. That is the last charter to have been adopted in the state of Florida. So since then, no other counties have moved forward with this idea. Our county, out of the 20 that do have charters, have the very smallest population out of all of them. And the next largest county that does have a charter is twice our size, and the next above that is 5 times our size, and then it goes up greatly. So we have different things to consider than some of the large metropolitan areas that, you know, have a larger population base. What I would like to say is the citizens did speak. The citizens voted for this as it stands. Everything can always be changed, but we haven't seen a problem. We haven't seen anyone fail to initiate a citizens petition method and show that there's a need for this. I would like to offer a friendly amendment to your first. And I would like to take your proposal and take it a step further than what you're doing, and let's let the citizens speak, and let's address what was addressed in the charter that you championed and was approved. Our charter contains a provision that we're required to have a charter review commission by 2015. I propose tonight, let's go ahead and stand up that charter review commission. That will mean we'll stand up 15 citizens that will review your proposal, the threshold, as well as the entire charter. And they're required to do that by the charter that you had approved. And so I would ask that you amend your first, and I will second it, to let's go ahead and stand up the Charter Review Commission now, and let's get that process underway.
Jerry, let's so you're, well, let's procedurally wise, I guess. Are you willing to modify your motion?
No, I want this motion to stand alone.
Are you willing to still second his motion?
No, I withdraw my second.
Is there another second on Howard's motion? Item dies for lack of second.
I'll make a motion that we move forward with standing up a charter review committee and have a citizens group as outlined in our charter. This is procedurally something that we're required to do. This is not optional. The only optional point is how fast.
Sorry, bring it back as an agenda item so I have some time to chew it over a little bit. I want to do a little bit more research on it.
Well, I'm going to still put the motion out there. Let's see if we get a second.
I'll second that motion.
I want to ask about Ralph's motion. I'm in agreement, but I also was wondering, would we have a workshop and establish the criteria of who the 15 would be, where the 15 would come from?
I guess what is your motion? Just to set this, your motion is to set it in motion?
Let me correct that. I make a motion that we direct staff to start the process that's outlined in our charter to initiate a charter review committee.
I can go along with that. I just don't want to be... There's a lot of things need to be hashed out.
So I modify my first to that.
I second that modification.
All right, Heather, under Robert's Rules of Order, have we already had proper citizen input on this, or do we need new citizens to be heard because it's a different motion?
It doesn't have to be 3 or 4.
I would take citizen comment on this motion.
Anybody wants to talk, come on up. Fill out a card. Go ahead, Chuck. Go ahead. You skip right over to the podium.
Going right over here. Yeah, it's
kind of hard to, on the fly here. Well, it seems, the point here, I guess, you're making the argument that nobody's, there does need to be changed because nobody's attempted it. Nobody's considered it. When you have a 30% threshold for each district.
Chuck, the motion, I'm sorry, is...
I know. For that. This is where it came from. That's where I'm coming from. So it discourages people from making these motions, doing a petition. It really makes it, expensive and discouraging for it to occur. As far as setting up the threshold, the committee, I would be more concerned on how you're going to set that up. I don't have a problem with the review committee to look at, what needs to be done in the charter, but I'd like to see the list of people that are going to be involved in that, and how you're going to make that selection criteria, and that would be my concern on that one. Thank you.
Larry, come on, back up. Let's, please, the motion on the floor is to direct staff to begin the motions to form the committee on the charter review, and that motion's been seconded. Please limit your comments to that motion, not previous failed motion. Thank you.
Larry Roberts, South Choppy. I'm really reluctant to express any confidence in what you would come up to with a charter review board at this particular point in time. I think the four of you would stack the deck and provide something for the citizenry of Wakulla County that is totally unsatisfactory. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lambu?
This is an idea that has maybe some merits, but this idea hasn't been advertised. I'm not sure how you're going to set up this review committee. There's a point, I know there's something in the charter that says it, but we all don't know it. I'd like to see you explore it, and I would hope that you would modify that and have a workshop the next commission meeting or next month, and get people's input to it and explore it in a real reasonable way. There's been no advertisement and no input and no thoughts of the citizens on this. I would like to see it explored. Thank you.
Thank you. Hugh Taylor?
Thank you. I think it's a reasonable proposal, but I think tonight is not the time. If you had advertised, if Commissioner Thomas had put it as a commission agenda item, I think the room would be a little bit fuller and there'd be a lot more interest in the direction that the folks would want the county to go in. And I don't know procedurally if you can do an unadvertised agenda item or motion without a 5-0 vote. And if the motion is to pursue or to have a workshop or something like that, you can direct staff to explore it, I believe. But I think if it was an agenda item, I think the room would be packed. If it's a workshop, I think the room would be kind of packed. So, but I don't know. That's up to the parliamentarian to tell you. But it was my understanding that on commission, this effectively, I think, would be a commission discussion item, and it's 5-0, I think, to get it, to have any action. But if it's staff will do whatever you guys want them to do anyway, so I wouldn't go to the point of the agenda thing, but I would, come on, agenda, public notice, access and all that, that's the way of a citizen-oriented government. Thank you, that's all.
Heather,
may I, he is correct, and this is a substantial change to what was proposed, And so I wanted an opportunity for the citizens to speak. I wanted an opportunity to get that out there and say that, this is what's required by our charter. And so, if we respect that the citizens spoke and approved that charter, this is just another piece of it that we have to do. We don't have an option of whether or not we do this charter review committee. I will withdraw my first, and I will bring it back as a proper agenda item. That way we don't have to settle that business tonight. That way we can fill the room, and hopefully it's with light of nice smiling faces just like yours, Mr. Taylor. And, this is part of the charter. This is part of what has to be done. So let's carry that out, and I'll bring that out as a proper agenda item.
I withdraw my second.
Done with that now. All right, what do we got next here? Let's look. I think it is discussion. Is that correct? All right, Ralph?
I don't have anything to do with it.
Heather, do you have anything?
Not
Thank
today.
No, I pass. I've said enough.
Gary?
Mr. Chuck, it seems like I've agreed with everybody but you. So I may as well make it unanimous. I'm going to agree with you tonight. My number one direction is TCC and the jobs that they will bring and the benefits they will bring to the county. That's my number one BP money funding. It's my number one county funding. It's far and ahead of number two. So everything I can do for TCC to bring them, help them come to this county and bring all their jobs. They're going to bring jobs to the county. So everything I can do to help them, I will. So I totally agree with you, and you're dead right. They're a game changer for our county. They'll bring people from all over the world to our county, and they'll stay and spend money. And number two, I would like to see Mr. and Ms. Arts, Dr. and Mr. Arts. Mr. You're Ms. Arts. You're Mr. Arts. And she's Dr. Hillier and you're Ms. Arts. Anyway, I want to see how we can coordinate what you would like to do and what we would like to do, or what I would like to do. I'm just one vote, but quite possibly we can both come together and do. We have a gym now, so that's a facility that will work. We have the building air conditioning. Supposedly they may build not a restaurant, but a kitchen there. So there's a lot of activities that can be there. I personally am not going to. The value of your expertise, and you were a great Auburn coach. So I appreciate that. You were well respected at Auburn, and but the value of what y'all will contribute. And Ms. Arts is an unbelievably hard worker. I would absolutely hate to have her on the opposite side of anything, really. But I don't know how we get together on this. I guess I'm not exactly, Ms. Arts likes workshops, I probably don't. But I'll try to get together with you and see what we can do, whereas we can coordinate what we would like to do maybe, now that that is not going to occur, and what you can do, maybe until we can do something that's even bigger and better.
David, will you reach out to them also? Because I know...
I've already talked to Ms. Arts.
Okay, we had to back up the pump with the Y pulling out.
I understand that.
And this is, and you're right, this is a big community discussion, and we'll be bringing maybe a couple of public meetings, or not.
I think that what we can do here is, we can do something in the interim till we do something bigger.
Right.
And that's what I'd like to see us do.
To set the foundation for something bigger.
Yes, yes,
But if you let it sit now,
yes.
it becomes more obscure.
I understand that. That's all I got to say.
Two items. Number one, David, where are we at? I just want to bring it back up again. We were going to lower the building permit fees because Howard, had brought up the fact about our reserve in the building department built up, and we could probably use some of that to offset building fees. We're still working on that, I assume?
Yeah, we're going through the study right now, and we're going to have something before you to approve prior to October 1 is our goal.
Okay.
So
Next
that
thing-
the new budget year kicks in.
Next thing, I'd like to talk about the wetlands. Get ready. I'd like us to seriously consider my proposal that passed 4-1 on June 17th, which was basically, to sum it up, this is what I'd like to see, is we only apply the setbacks to the coastline, which is our marshes and swamps, St. Mark's River, Wakulla River, Sopchugga River, and Ocotney River. And everything else doesn't have a setback at all. Basically isolated wetlands. And you get an automatic variance if your property is going to be considered a taken. And one other thing I'd throw in there is do not affect isolated wetlands without a permit from the state. And you may say in your mind, well, you're flip-flopping. Well, no, I'm not actually. I think these guys have enough juice to get this thing on a referendum. And if it passes, it's going to be just like this pig law right here. There ain't nothing we can do about it. We're going to be stuck with it from here to the end of time. We can say, and you know, they can put on there and say, well, let's have 75 foot with no variances allowed whatsoever. If there's a chance it passes, if there's a 20% chance it passes, we get nothing. Now, Howard, I'm just going to quote you. On Howard's side of the issue, if what I'm trying to do is compromise, if he says he doesn't want to compromise, his people don't want to compromise, well, I am absolutely, given the choice between either having what we have now or having nothing, I'm going to vote for nothing every time. Because I think it's taking people's property. I think it goes too far with isolated wetlands. I think it goes too far with not allowing variance at 35 foot. So if the only choice I have is all or nothing, I'm voting for nothing. Now, on Howard's side, he could say, well, I want all or nothing too. Either we leave the wetlands ordinance exactly like it is, or I'm not going to support that either. Well, what's he get? He gets nothing too, because the wetlands ordinance gets voted out and goes away. So I'm trying to say, is there any sort of compromise? Because unfortunately, as politicians, the people we talk to are the partisans, either on the hard left of an issue or the hard right of an issue. And when you talk to regular people, they'll, you know, I talk to some people, well, I can see having some protections for the beaches or for the river, but I said, well, what about a swamp in your yard? Well, no, that doesn't need a setback on it. So we've already voted 4-1 to do that, I'm sorry. Richard's suggestion came back. Trump's mine. If that's the only choice I have, I'm going to support Richard's decision. But I'd just like, at least for us to consider some sort of middle ground, because we all have something to lose. If that referendum goes through and that referendum passes, everybody that's on the right, you know, the property right side of this issue, you lost it all. You didn't get anything. And I think, Heather, you back me up here, that would then be considered a taking.
You bet.
Because if it passed by referendum, it's just like the board voting to pass it, okay? Then somebody could sue the county and say, your citizens wanted to vote, do not let me use my property, your citizens buy it from me. I could see that happening. Heather, is that realistic?
I've always said that if the repeal of the 75-foot buffer and the comp plan goes through, and then there's a lapse of time, and through a citizens initiative or some other process, maybe a different board, whatever, there's a lapse of time, and that protection is then reinstated, under the correct set of facts, this county could be subject to Bert Harris claims and takings claims.
Just something to think about. And, I mean, we could resolve it right here tonight. All we would need to do what I'm talking about is if Richard's last motion got rescinded, there's two directions right now we've given the staff. One is to come up with a variance procedure to 35 feet to take isolated wetlands out. The other one is to completely get rid of it altogether out of our comp plan. If we took that one off the table, that would leave the other one still moving forward. I don't know if y'all are willing to do anything about this tonight. I don't know how hard your position is on it, but we really need to think this through. I, 2 years ago, tried to get rid of the wetlands ordinance. If that referendum passes, which I think it has at least a decent chance of passing, look what they passed here with these pigs, then we lose everything. The property rights side does.
Well, I can tell you this. In 2010, I ran against Mr. Kessler, and my issue was to remove the wetlands ordinance, and the people voted for me and not Mr. Kessler. and they voted 47 to 53. I was not even known. Nobody even knew who I was. And I took a stance of voting against the wetlands then. I will stay against the wetlands now. I don't believe you will ever please, and I will call them the cave people. I don't believe you will ever please the cave people. They're the same people that come up here every night and speak. And cave is citizens against virtually everything. And if you look back at the meetings that we've had through the years, the people are the same people and they speak every time. So basically speaking, I don't think in any case you will ever please them. If you do this, they'll come right back at you, wanting the isolated...
I'm not trying to please them. I'm trying to be realistic about if a referendum goes to the citizens and it passes, to me it's not, personally it's not, I'd rather get something, or actually I'd rather get most of what I want than get absolutely nothing.
If the citizens choose to go this way, then they're putting their government at risk, because every time that there is a challenge to the wetlands law, they will lose. They take the county to court.
Doesn't matter. If they vote it and it's in our, just like this ended up, it's in our Constitution. If they voted in, the citizens voted in, and it's in our charter, we can't get rid of it.
I know, but they will be paying the price, and it'll come
They
against...
is us. We...
That's right. The citizens will be paying the price because it'll come against their taxes.
Correct. So your position is you want to take it out totally and no...
They will. I want to have a wetlands ordinance, and I want it to be identical to the state. And I want the state to be responsible for it, and I don't want to get into the taking of people's property and having to pay them for it and putting the taxpayers at risk.
And anybody express opinion.
These folks will go after me in the election. They went after me in the last election. They will go after me in the next election, and I am not afraid of that. That does not bother me in the least. And Mr. Taylor, I challenge you to run against me. I challenge you tonight to run against me.
All right, let's stick to the subject.
All
right, John.
Hey, he asked me not to
John?
put dirt on Jerry Moore, is why he got so many votes. I had it all from Georgia.
All right, you don't have to say anything if you don't want.
What you going to say, Anthony?
Well, I was just want to ask, this is a lot to think about tonight, right on the fly, and we've got it, our first meeting coming up in September, and I would like to think upon this, and I would like to maybe address it again in September.
Everybody's time.
I understand completely.
No support. I'm not going to bring it up again. If three people want to pursue all or nothing, then we'll go for all or nothing, and I'll support it. I'm not going to vote against repealing it and keeping what we got. I'm going to be clear on that. I just think there is room for some sort of compromise. I would get 80% of what I find is wrong with the current setup, 80 to 90% actually. You get an automatic in-house variance. You don't need to come before the board to beg to use your land. There's clear criteria set out. Takes isolated wetlands out of it, which was a big sore thing for me. But I honestly believe there is maybe not a strong consensus, but there is just from ordinary people. Yes, I think we should protect our wetlands a little more than extra. And if those people get out and vote, and it's in our charter, that's it. Can't change it, no variances, no nothing, we're stuck with it. So, is there any interest at all, or Ralph?
Yeah, I'll weigh in. If I make any changes, I'm going to make my changes based on facts, on science, and no disrespect to you guys, but not on pressure. Do you really want any elected officials that's just going to cave to pressure just because you threaten to not reelect us? I promise you, if you throw me out of office, you're throwing me back into a pay raise, because it's costing me money to be here to serve our county. And I do it, and I measured that going into it, and I love the citizens of this county, and I will always act in their best interest. And I also say that there's, times where if we agree, whoever's opposed to me on this issue, if we agree on something, and then a crowd bigger than your crowd shows up, and I cave into that, you're not going to respect me. And so I have to have integrity to the system and to who I am. And I said when I ran the election that this is like just throwing a kite up in the air. If the wind picks me up and goes, I'm willing to go. If I represent what the people want in this county, I'm willing to serve in that capacity. But if I'm not, then by all means, someone else needs to be in the seat. But while I am here, I'm going to do the best I can to act with integrity. There'll never be a day where I cave to the pressure and just to the mean-spirited nature of what goes on here. And I fully support, I spent a lot of years in the military. If you want to act that way, that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with it, and I'll fight these guys to make sure that you can stand up and speak. I just don't want that negativity passing into my brain, and so I choose to not be affected by that. I'm going to be affected by what I think is best for the county. Now, what I would say is we would need to, let's take a look at what the state is doing and what the county is doing. That's where the conversation needs to be.
Setback is...
We've had folks, and I hate that David Damon left tonight, because I hate to talk about him behind his back, but I'll be glad to tell him to his face, and he knows that. He put his slide up, and if Katie still has it, we can put it back up. But on his own slide, he showed that the buffer could go down to 0 feet. That is correct. There are circumstances where it can go to 0 feet. But read the bottom of that slide, his slide, not mine. It says, if it's not adversely impacted, it can go to 0 feet. Isn't that the goal? Aren't we trying to make sure that we have rules in place to make sure that our wetlands are not adversely impacted? If I can demonstrate, or if not me, I'm not a scientist, but if a scientist, if the permitting process can demonstrate that there's no adverse impact, then haven't we met what we're all trying to do? I love the wetlands as much as you guys. I also love the people of this county. And Mr. Lambeau, all due respect, you said it in print, you said it here tonight, that there's one person that works for the state that takes care of 8 counties. So that's incorrect. I've got an email from BEP, and I'll share it with you. There's a head count of 29 people that serve those 8 counties. In addition to the 29, there's a group of departments that have a collateral responsibility that deal with water flows and with mitigation, so that number is well above 29. Now, the actual number, maybe that's not important, but telling the truth is. And if you guys prevail and get this thing on the ballot, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the citizens speaking. I just want to make sure that when the citizens make the decision, they make it based on the truth. And that's my goal, is I will make sure that I keep telling the truth, and I hope that you guys will do the same. Thank you.
Can I answer you? No, sir.
As it stands.
Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say, as is...
Let him finish. This is on the same topic, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please.
I just want to say, as it stands for tonight, my motion stands. As it stands for tonight. You always want me to move, my motion stands.
I'm not going to bring anything back and waste anybody's time.
Let me comment on some of the things that have been said, though. And I'll start off with the last thing that was said. I personally dialogued with Northwest Water Management District. I asked them, before they clamped down and got their speech right, okay, what the state wanted them to say, I was told, okay, not on one occasion, but on 2 conversations by phone, there are 2 wetlands people. Now it becomes 20-some-odd wetlands people, and you have an email. That reminds me of a previous county administrator who destroyed one of our departments and said, well, now we have everyone working on it. No one was working on it, okay? I can get specific with the department and everything else, but that's government speech right now that's happening. Okay, what was there were 2 wetland specialists, Northwest Water Management, for 16 counties, okay? So I think Mr. Lambeau may have gotten the same information that I got. But I want to go back to some things on the wetlands, since that's the discussion right now. And we're talking about compromising. The wetlands ordinance was a compromise.
Well, I can see I shouldn't have even brought this up.
No.
I
want to continue. I want to continue with this, okay? I'm not being shut down on this now, okay? The wetlands ordinance was a compromise.
Let's talk about it under your time, because you're welcome.
This is our time. This is our commission discussion time. It's your, no, don't give me time limits and stuff like that. I'm talking to your...
I'm not giving you a time
limit. You are.
No, I'm not. I'm done with my item, okay?
Okay.
It obviously doesn't have support to go forward. I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Let's let Richard go in line, and then you're next. No time limit.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to elect Commissioner Texas Fish what he's saying, and I'll go last.
What was that?
I'll let you finish what I was saying, and I'll go last.
No, please, because I'm going to be talking.
Okay. The only thing I wanted to talk about, there's always talks of jobs, there's always people in the county looking for jobs, and if there's a way for someone to get a job in Wakulla County, I'm definitely for it. But I want to say, I work in Carabel at Franklin Correctional Institution, and our institution, we just built a new work camp right across the street. They're looking for 30 officers right now. They don't even have enough applications right now to fill those 30 positions. It's only about 30 minutes away. I know it's not in Wakulla, but it's still within about 30 minutes away. If you would like to work at a prison, if you would like to be a correctional officer, if you would like a job right now, they are hiring, they are accepting applications, and you have to be 19. Now you have not been in that much trouble. They'll hire you and then send you to school. They'll pay you while you're going to school, and then once you get hired, then you've got a career that would allow you to retire in 25 years if need be. But I just wanted to put it out there to the citizens at home that if there are citizens that are looking for a job, needing a job, there's 30 available positions within 30 minutes drive.
And you said they didn't have to be certified to apply and get hired.
You don't have to be certified to apply and get hired. You can go fill out the application. They would then hire you. Then they would send you to school. They would pay for your certification. About 4 months' time, then you would be certified for fair wages and some of the best benefits.
Can a commissioner take that job?
Yes, sure. You already got one doing it right now.
That's all I got to say. I just wanted to, there are a lot of people out there looking for jobs, and I just wanted to let the people at home know that there's jobs available nearby.
All right, Howard, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, on this wetlands, and I have several points. One is, the wetlands ordinance was a compromise. So we start off with a compromise position, and now we're going to compromise it again. That wetlands ordinance passed by a vote of 5-0 on this commission. Go back and look up who the composition of the commission was. It was a 5-0 vote, okay? I had offered before, we were starting now to get worried about the Bert Harris takings and things like that, and I brought that point up. I said, yes, if you move ahead and eliminate this stuff from our county laws, and it gets put back in place by the citizens, you're exposing the citizens, so why are you marching ahead with it? Why are you marching ahead? Why don't you wait and see where the citizens are? Okay? The worst that's going to happen is the wetlands ordinance gets put back. Now, as far as being stuck with it forever, no, you're not. You can go out there and get 30% of the signatures, or you, as a board, can put it on yourself without having a heartache of going out there and get 30% of the signatures. But anyone that thinks that 30% of signature gathering is an easy thing to do, and I don't care what the percentage is, that's a very high bar. The bar, it's 3 times higher than the next lowest. And so things can change. You can have something put in, and then you can have it taken out by a vote of the people. That's what charter government is all about. But why are you insisting on marching ahead and repealing this and exposing the county to that possible liability? Why don't we just regroup? I think there may be things in the wetlands ordinance that I would be able to go along with, but look where we are right now. We're at a time where we're asking the citizens to trust us as a board. We're going to take a wetlands ordinance that was put in by a 5-0 vote. We're going to throw it out. And so I don't see the citizens stopping, moving ahead, okay? Because they have a time frame they have to meet, and that's where they are. But are there things that can be changed in the wetlands ordinance? Yes. Can it be changed by the board making recommendations and putting it on the ballot if the citizens march down this line? Yes, we can do it.
So you would support my proposed changes only if it was on a ballot issue?
Well, I don't see how we get out of the situation that this board has created right now.
Well,
yeah, if we could turn back the clock, and we didn't have a citizenry that was out there saying, well, what's going to happen in 6 months? They're going to turn around and do this thing again?
So So you're saying, no, you wouldn't support what I was saying?
I'm saying I would support looking at some of those things, but I don't think it's going to change what path is that's moving along right now. And I think there's you talk about, and I am totally with Commissioner Thomas. I think that being threatened and badgered about, put out of office if you don't vote a certain way is I'm not on that page, okay? But I also appreciate that there's been a lot of people with a lot of science speaking before this board, and this board blew them off. We have people in this county who, one of them, co-authored the book on wetlands determinations that the state uses. And we just blew her off. The science was out there in our citizens. It's there. If you look at what the state has done to protect things, look at Wakulla Springs. I don't know if it's the BMAP that has some proposal now of bringing some level down to, or one of the organizations, level of bringing the nitrate levels down to point whatever it is, multiple times higher than science has already proved is harmful to the springs, and they're a committee that's supposed to be protecting our springs. You heard about people that go down to the Keys now, and the water's murky. Our springs are murky. How many have dried up? How many have become polluted? That's the state watching our waters. They have not done the job. And that's the plea of the people closest to our resources, saying we need to do better than the state did, because they did a crummy, and I almost used the John Trice word, job, okay? Yeah, I was there. I was almost there. I was almost there. So as far as the wetlands, I think there are things that we can have in common on it. But I think, and I'd like to see those things explored, okay?
But they were explored, they were past 4-1. That's what I'm suggesting, is, we talk about science, since we're just discussing, I don't want to interrupt. The issue is the 75-foot setback. That's the issue. Our rules, I don't think, are redundant on the state rules. The state has their jurisdiction. Our additional rule is the 75-foot setback. And when that takes someone's use of the properties, well, I got a lot of greed.
But we haven't had a real problem with it in our county, have we?
Yes, we have. You just haven't heard about it.
Okay.
Nobody's going, would you go to a bank and say, bank, I want to buy a lot in Shell Point, and I got to be 75 feet in the wetlands, which means I can't build a house on it. Well, they say, well, you can go to the board and apply for a variance. They're not going to loan you money on that, and that person's not going to buy that lot. They don't want to get involved in politics. There's a lot of people that just don't want to hassle with it. And I'm not aware of it either, because we don't ever see them. But it's out there.
Okay, let me go back. I'll leave the wetlands alone for a bit then. Going back to the Charter County government and the Charter Review Committee, which absolutely we need to do. I think that should be discussed, how we're going to, set that up, and I think we should become familiar with that section that mandates that we do this before the certain date that Commissioner Thomas notified us of. But I want to go back to the vote of the wetlands ordinance and how it wasn't my ordinance, although I was very much in favor of the charter. I mixed them up. The charter government. Totally different issue of why I was championing the charter government. And in order to get a vote of a person on this committee, on this board, he said, I will not vote for it unless it's 30%.
Did it have to be a 5-0 vote?
No, it didn't. It turned out to be a 3-2 vote, I think. Okay? And that person that said 30% ended up voting against it. Okay? So that's how that played out. So don't say 5-0. That was the first time was right. The second time, which is the one that counts, okay, was 3-2. And so it was by the skin of the teeth that it went to the citizens at 30%. And it was all about a certain different issue. It was about CRAs. What happens when, you know, there's a certain history that comes along with the board. There's a certain history that the board moves through. And that's why I think it's a dangerous thing to be, especially messing with votes of 5-0, where the board has done something, and just throwing that out the window. So, in regards to the wetlands ordinance, back to that. So what the state's doing hasn't been working. And you can look at science, you can not look at science. Just jump in the water. Just see the birds that aren't there anymore, see the snails that aren't there anymore. See everything that our people who are riding those boats at Wakulla Springs are seeing. And there is science to that, because they did studies, and they can show you how this thing has declined. So it's affecting us here in our backyard. And that's why it's so important for locally to report, to protect the wetlands. Can I have one last thing? Okay. So at the last meeting, Commissioner Moore,
As long as it doesn't get ugly.
yeah, it might get a little ugly, it won't get ugly for me. I was told about a non-disclosure document that I had signed with a Mr. Crum that I'm unaware of apparently, about $600,000 that I cost the county, or that we paid off in wetlands-related lawsuits, both of which I think are totally false. And if Commissioner Moore has the document that he says that I signed, I would like to see it. And I think he owes that to me, he owes that to the citizens of the county, and I will keep on asking for that document. Thank you.
Okay. Jerry, you said you had a couple of things you want to say.
Okay. Basically, for whatever damage may or may not be perceived to the waters, to the seashore, to the marsh, to whatever of Wakulla County, I'm not going to let anybody blame the good people of Wakulla County for doing that. Wakulla County, we have from 98 Highway to the coast at Spring Creek is almost 10 miles of St. Mark's National Wildlife Refuge. That is sort of like a filter, so you can't blame the people that are between 98 and the coast for polluting the coast. When I first came on here, all I heard was nitrogen. Nitrogen is destroying the springs. It's not Wakulla County's nitrogen that got into the springs. The people tell me that they told me it was 0.7% of nitrogen from Wakulla County that affected the springs. That is not Wakulla County damaging the ecosystem or anything of that nature. It was basically the spray field in Tallahassee that might have done that. It's not Wakulla County that's affecting the stream flow and the volume of the stream flow. We are not taking the water out of the system to do agriculture. We have no agriculture north of the springs in Wakulla County to speak of. It's the irrigation systems in South Georgia. It's the cities in Atlanta that every time they flush, that's 4 million flushes. That's 4 million times 5 gallon. And you do that 5 times a day, or 10 if you got a family. The problem of stream flow in the Apalachicola Basin and our hydrology here and the aquifer, that has nothing to do with the good people of Wakulla County. We're not responsible for that. We're not responsible for the nitrogen in the springs. Probably the animals put more nitrogen in Wakulla Springs than do all the septic tanks. We can only have like two more thousand septic tanks in North Wakulla in the spring basin. And to say that those 2,000 are going to all be bad tanks is just so much conversation. if there is pollution at Shell Point, it didn't come from the good people of Wakulla Springs. It's quite possibly that the septic tanks at Shell Point are doing the pollution, are the hundreds of thousands of animals that are in that basin when we have a flood, that the water drains into that area. But it's not the people of Wakulla County that's polluting. The person who said he couldn't go swimming, that's not the people of Wakulla County that's polluting your beach, because there's a 10-mile filter between 98 Highway and your beach. It's most likely some septic tanks. I don't know. I could probably find out who's on septic tank and many people in Shell Point are on good septic tanks. There's probably some that are not. But we are trying to put a system on the good people of Wakulla County and restrict the rights of their property and to use it. And it won't sound like much until they go to the building department and ask for a permit to build, and we say, well, you're inside the 75-foot mark, or you're inside the 35-foot mark, you can't build. It won't be important until that happens. But when that happens, they will sue us, and the history says that they will collect on that. That's it.
Anybody else? We get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. I'm going to take it past 5:00. Thank you, gentlemen.